A new live-action movie in the Lord of the Rings franchise is coming up. And what's surprising about this is they unghosted Peter Jackson. They are bringing him into the project to be a producer. He is not directing. But everyone was really excited that Andy Serkis is directing. Do you know why? I don't understand why this is such a great sign for this franchise in particular.
I like Andy Serkis. I mean, I like Andy Serkis more as an actor.
I know Amazon isn't attached to this because Amazon doesn't own the rights to the movies. They don't own the rights to anything that's in the actual series of novels. But regardless, do we really have any faith that Hollywood is capable of making anything in this franchise, anything in this world, like without fucking it up? Well, like, do we have any hope?
It doesn't matter because it's not Tolkien, right? So there's a difference between when they did Bond movies and they did some of their own. So like GoldenEye wasn't based on an actual story from the Bond franchise, and a couple of others, right? That was a very different time. 1995 was a very different time, and people's general idea of what they thought Hollywood thought of lore and the people that they were using for IP farms was very, very different. People were a lot more willing to just go with the flow, and if you told a good story, it worked. And at that time, it was a lot more creatively focused anyways, whereas now it's just focused on pumping out IP to keep rights for things.
I mean, if you are making up an entire new story from scratch, it's reportedly being written right now to go to theaters in 2026. You're writing this entirely new story from scratch. Make it about a different world. Make it about a different set of characters. Make it something new. It's a new story anyway.
No, so apparently it's based on one of the appendixes, like one of the appendix from Lord of the Rings.
In the Silmarillion?
Yeah. So whether that's true or not, like
I don't know.
It doesn't really matter because I don't think people have any faith in it anyways because it's not through Peter Jackson. Producing is not the same thing as directing. I'm
honestly surprised that Peter Jackson would be affiliated with this after the way Amazon ghosted him. Like, they at first were telling him like, yeah, we would love your input for Rings of Power. Call us anytime. And then he tried to reach out and they just like blocked him. They just didn't respond. They totally locked him out of conversations there. And a lot of people blamed that decision for why Rings of Power was so shitty. I think it was going to be shitty anyway, but I'm surprised that Peter Jackson still has faith that Hollywood in 2024 is capable or willing of creating a story in the Lord of the Rings franchise that isn't just abominable. Yeah. And he's not, he as a producer doesn't have any creative role here.
I mean, that was the same thing that I used to laugh at when they were first marketing the Man of Steel, like from producer Christopher Nolan, and he actually did have more input on that
to an extent.
To an extent,
but it's not the same as a director. It's not the same as a writer. And look, why do you have a writer? It's based on a series of novels written by a guy who is dead. So why are you writing more? Like, that's what doesn't make sense to me.
I assume this is how Gollum became Gollum, right? How he went from being a hobbit to being Gollum.
So it says, it's an honor and a privilege to travel back to Middle-earth with our good friend and collaborator, Andy Serkis, who has unfinished business with the stinker, Gollum. They said in a joint statement, this is from Jackson, Walsh, and Boyens. This is for people over at Warner Brothers, right? It says, as lifelong fans of Professor Tolkien's vast mythology, we are proud to be working with Mike DeLuca, Pan Abdi, of course, they are in charge of Warner Brothers Productions over there, for another epic adventure. But it's been, 20 years plus. They've got the animated Lord of the Rings movie that's coming out at Christmas this year.
Oh yeah, I totally forgot about that. And they're showing the trilogy in full, like the director cut, in theaters right now because they're so short on content, which I was planning to see. So they're clearly like milking this franchise for all it's worth and further than that.
There's a $20 one there from Hobbit.
Oh, from Hobbit, you said?
Yes.
Oh, that's funny. He said the hunt for Gollum is mentioned in Fellowship of the Ring during the Council of Elrond. Gandalf tells how he searched for Gollum before eventually sending Aragorn to find him while he went to get help from Saruman. So, but nothing that was ever explicitly told in the series. They're just kind of they call it yet to be told.
The problem is like with franchises like this, they need time to breathe, and they've given Lord of the Rings a lot of time, but then Rings of Power came out and they lost a lot of goodwill, and it's not even from the same studio.
But the consumers don't know the difference, that it's not from the same studio. They're not even thinking about that, and they don't care, nor should they.
The average person doesn't know that Amazon has the
difference.
television rights and that Warner Brothers has the movie rights.
Exactly. For all they know, it's literally the same people making the new movie as it was the show. And they need to just be realistic that you've lost the goodwill you had, and let it rest for a second. But they said for over 2 decades, moviegoers have embraced Lord of the Rings film trilogy because of the undeniable devotion Peter, Fran, and Philippa have shown towards protecting the legacy of Tolkien's works, and to ensure audiences could experience the incredible world he created in a way that honors his literary vision. We're honored they have agreed to be our partners on these two new films. Do they mean the animated film?
No. Oh, no. I think this is 2 new live action ones, not including the animated film that's coming out this year.
They're both
that's already
Gollum
done.
movies?
The second one is unannounced.
Oh, okay. We just got the tentative title for the Gollum movie. With Andy coming aboard to direct The Hunt for Gollum, we continue an important commitment to excellence that is the true hallmark of how we all want to venture ahead and further contribute to the Lord of the Rings cinematic history.
Problem is, depending on how they work the actual film, not many people have great memories of the Hobbit franchise, right? Not in the same way. Like,
compare it to what came out in the second half of the 2010s, and you're like, oh, it was fine. But it's sort of like the way that the prequel trilogy of Star Wars is remembered now. Like, at the time, it got a lot of hate, but now people compare it to current Disney Star Wars content, and they're like, we didn't know we had it good back then. It seems like that. Yeah. But I also saw here that Rings of Power Season 2 is coming out later this year, which feels like a fast turnaround. But do you want to review that, or are we done?
I don't know.
It's like it wasn't as bad as Velma.
I think they were both bad.
But at least, like, the thing is, the fan base for Lord of the Rings is so much bigger and more devoted than Scooby-Doo.
Yes.
Clearly.
And it matters more.
Yeah.
It's more important to our culture.
My big issue will be like what Peter Jackson did a lot of work to do in-camera effects and to really bring it to life in a way that felt real. And right now, the take that people have on CGI is that it's overdone and that it's bad.
I remember it being overdone in the 2012
The Hobbit.
Yes,
that's the problem. So there was a very clear quality difference between the original films and what came out with the Hobbit films. There's not a single bit of me that believes that they're going to be able to work backwards to make it look like the original trilogy looked like.
No.
And
especially because Peter Jackson is just fronting money here.
And one of the problems is like, look, when something like this comes out and it gets 80 or $100 million opening, compared to like say they make 80 to $100 million, they do it with a budget of 150 or $200 million. All that looks like to anyone else is just meh. Like, you just took one of the most profitable franchises of all time. It's the same way with Star Wars, right? Whenever you put out something new for Star Wars, if it's anything other than unbelievable levels of excitement and draw towards your product, it feels like a fall from grace for something that should matter a lot more.
You know what? I'm going to audition to be the motion capture actress for Gollum.
You can take, so if Circus is going to be both Gollum and direct, then then you're going to have to fight for the role. Maybe like, look, you're busy, you're directing. I'm not sure
I'll
if you're
be
going to
the
be able to do
stunt double
that.
for Gollum.
And as
you know what? They're going to race swap Gollum.
And as a director, I've only seen 2 of the things that he's done. I saw the Mowgli movie and I saw Venom: Let There Be Carnage. And I like Andy Serkis a lot as an actor. As a director, like, I don't have the proven track record to say that I think he's like the greatest thing in the world, especially for a project of that size. Venom: Let There Be Carnage was not nearly as not to say that any of the Venom movies were all that great, but the first Venom movie, in my opinion, was a better film than the second one. And I like Andy Serkis more as an actor than I do as a director. So I don't know if you get somebody like Matt Reeves to do this. I don't know if that would, because he did the Planet of the Apes movies that Andy Serkis starred in. Like, maybe he would be the person to take on a project like this, but he's busy doing the Batman Part 2.
Oh, yeah.
So, like, who do you get for a project like this? I guess it works, but I don't know if you get Kenneth Branagh to do something like this. He might be a better fit for this film, but it just doesn't inspire a lot of confidence. And nobody that I saw online talking about it had any real level of excitement over this project. And that's a problem. You want people to be excited when you announce things like this.
Yeah, they're also making a reference to a small part of one of the original books that most people wouldn't be aware of. So they're just like, what the hell is this movie even about? Yeah. Like they don't get it. But yeah, I think that this is a bad idea.
There's a $20 one there from Hobbit again.
He said, I have heard that if Warner Bros. And New Line Cinema do not make Lord of the Rings films, then they lose the copyright, meaning other groups like Amazon could sneak in and snatch it up. The Hobbit films weren't great, but better than Rings of Power.
That's a fair look. Yeah, I mean, they say a lot
the
of
bar
times
is low.
That is why they do so many Spider-Man movies. Like even right after they made the Amazing Spider-Man, which a lot of people didn't think of favorably, the Andrew Garfield Spider-Man movies. They have to keep making them, otherwise Sony will lose the rights to them. Right. It'll revert back to Marvel. So that is a problem. That speaks to another greater problem within the industry, which is where art and commerce meet, and you're not making something because something actually needs to be inspired to make it. You're just making it because, we're going to lose the rights to do this. Yeah. And nobody wants that. Nobody wants you to just make something because you have to do it. You don't want to say, we got to make another Lord of the Rings movie or we're going to lose the rights. You want somebody to come in and say, like, look, I've read this. It's a fantastic story. This is my history of work. I am the man or woman. Progressivism, right? I am the man to direct this for you, to adapt this for the screen. And there's none of that right now. It's just get it done and push it off the factory line because that's what needs to happen. I
think they also feel no matter what happens, if it's coming after Rings of Power, you're going to look so much better.
Like, maybe that's
the bar has just been set so low that they feel like it's a recipe for success. I disagree, but that might be the way they see it.
Maybe what I need to do is look, maybe I need to go back. I've only seen again, self-admitted, not the biggest Lord of the Rings fan. I've seen each of the movies twice and remember very little of them from when I was younger. Saw the Hobbit movies and hated them. Maybe if I went back and watched the Hobbit movies, I would look on them more fondly.
Yeah,
I don't think so, but perhaps. I was just, and the funny thing is we were talking about run times. We were talking about run times recently because the new Kevin Costner film that's coming out, his Cowboy.
3 hours.
3 hours long. I'm like, bro.
And 1 minute.
Unnecessary.
Not just 3 hours. Just add another minute on there.
There wasn't a dude to be like, bro, there's at least a minute we can cut out of here. Let's get it down to 3 hours even.
No. What was it before editing?
Actually, no, that's a better question. The real thing is, you know how they price things at $9.99? He should have cut 2 minutes out of it to make it 2 hours and 59 minutes.
Yeah.
Just so it doesn't, have the stench of a 3-hour movie. Though I did see a good argument to the contrary recently. Somebody said, look, going to the movies is expensive. I like longer movies because it feels like
Is it more bang for your buck?
That's what that was their logic. It was look, I feel like I get more, bang for my buck. I get my money's worth by going to 3-hour movie. I'm like, add intermissions maybe.
That only works if the movie is actually good, right?
Yeah. It's just, and I don't have any interest. And they pointed out they're he's got other movies that were longer. And I'm like, bro, I could maybe watch Dances with Wolves again these days.
Or Oppenheimer.
That was good, but that's again.
Wait, how long was Oppenheimer again?
It was 2 hours and 50 minutes.
Oh, okay.
Or but the point is, Christopher Nolan is the exception and not the rule. Mm-hmm. When in doubt, assume you're not as good as Christopher Nolan at making a film.
Yeah.
Not to say that Kevin Costner doesn't have a track record of making films that people like. He does. But bro, you're rusty. You've been doing Yellowstone all these months as an actor. Maybe lean into something that's a good 2 hours and 15 minutes.
He's post-divorce. He's in the zone.
Maybe we will review Rings of Power Season 2.
I don't know. Do you guys want that? If you want us to review the next season, I guess we should. But I don't know if you guys even want to hear about it. It's only really worth one shot.
Again, I saw, does somebody know what movie? I just saw something recently about either the movie we're watching tonight, which is The Planet of the Apes, or something else that's coming out recently that was entirely shot on film. And that actually got me excited. If they went back.
Which one was it, though?
I thought it was The Planet of the Apes that said that it was shot on film, but I don't know if that's what it was. If they came and told me that they were shooting the Gollum movie on film and they were going to limit their CGI and use minimal green screens, film on location, track, just trek your big asses over to New Zealand where you shot the original films, right? And go do that. I would be behind at least the premise of it, but we'll have to wait for more stuff to come out. But you lose a lot when you build everything in post and you don't do things on location.
Thanks for watching. Listen to full episodes of Pop Culture Crisis on Spotify.
Keep up with us on social media and make sure you subscribe and ring that bell so you never miss the show. Bye, guys.